World Test Championship is almost among us, and thus here we are to have a sort of preview for this highly anticipated final between India and New Zealand. And once again, from Bagher Adda, it's me, Rakimul. Joining me is one of our familiar guests, Upayan Bose, and for the first time on our show, straight from England, Debbie Knight. So,
Hello.
Debbie, welcome.
Thank you.
First time in Bagher Adda. Welcome to you too, Upayan Bose. Okay, so let's get started. Let's get started with our new guest. What sort of, before we start talking about the squads and how the game could possibly pan out, what sort of conditions could we expect around this time in Southampton?
Well, I think we should. Well, we are talking England, so to a degree, who knows? We should be looking at pretty decent weather in Southampton. I mean, it's in a part of the country that tends to get decent weather. I mean, we had a full day of rain yesterday at Lord's in June, which you wouldn't have expected. But we have to keep fingers crossed that we're going to get decent weather. I mean, I last time India played there was 2018, and it was absolutely glorious. It's a very nice ground, actually, and one that I think they'll be comfortable at. It's obviously been picked for the reason that they can keep the players safe. I think we should have good conditions, English conditions, however. So we shall see how India fare.
I think the only real mistake we could make as fans is not expect rain at any given point in any English city. So moving into the actual squads, India have pretty much probably three initial picks for the opening slot, those being Shubman Gill, Rohit Sharma, and Mayank Agarwal. Of course, there's also KL Rahul who could possibly fill in that role, but I think these three are probably going to be the first choice. Like, these three are the initial choice and the initial cycle they could go with. So that's where my question is to Upayan. How do you think these three will fare in the English conditions given New Zealand's bowling attack?
Are you coming to me with that?
Oh no, this one's for Upayan.
No.
And which two would you like to see? Of course, like which two of the three would you like to see?
Personally, I think I don't really want to tinker with the opening slot too much because Rohit and Gill, they've been consistent, at least in Australia. Shubman Gill, the reason why I would still consider backing him despite his inexperience is probably because he's done well in the A tours that he's been a part of. I think he's travelled to England, if I'm not wrong. So he's been decent. It's not like he's been making headlines or something, but you just need to give him a bit of backing. He's a very young player. I don't think he's reached 21 yet, so I'd probably consider backing him. Rohit Sharma, I think, definitely takes this spot, not just because of his figures, I mean, in the World Test Championship, but also because of the kind of experience that he brings in, not just as an opening batsman, but just as a cricket player to the Indian team. So I think that would preferably be my two openers. I really feel bad for Mayank Agarwal because his form hasn't really been great of late. I think he might just miss out. I would have really considered him as my third option, and he comes really close. He also did decently in the A tours that we saw when India toured England, and he was also a part of he was supposed to make his debut in England, but since since the openers didn't really do too poorly in the test matches afterwards, so I think he just made his debut straight in Melbourne. So it's kind of sad that Mayank Agarwal might just miss out on the opening slot. I still would consider playing him at number 6 because he was sort of decent. One big problem about Mayank Agarwal is that his new bat lift, the one that is kind of different to what his original bat lift was, it's slightly more higher, and I think it's more suited for the white ball games that he is now trying to adapt to, which doesn't really suit when he's playing in the red ball format, and that sort of needs to be changed, I guess. I'm not sure if he's going to technically adapt again. Regarding KL Rahul, I think he's been out of favor for the Indian Test squad for a long time, and they've just kept him as a backup. as a concussion substitute or anything, because he can be a backup not just for the openers, but also if in case Rishabh Pant doesn't do well and we need a batsman who in the second innings or so. So I think that is exactly what his role is right now. So yeah, this is what it's all about in the Team India.
So Debbie, coming to you, the New Zealand openers, Tom Latham and Mayank Agarwal have actually done, one could argue, slightly better than both Shubman Gill and Mayank Agarwal. Of course, Rohit Sharma has been phenomenal, but putting that aside, does Tom Latham and definitely the more inexperienced Devon Conway pose a bigger threat?
I mean, Tom Latham is a very understated cricketer, isn't he? He's not someone that you would put in a star bracket, but I think he does a very decent job as an opener. I mean, around the world, those two slots are problematical, aren't they? Devon Conway, obviously, he's been out for quite cheap. In fact, we've got another wicket now. Just watching, Kane Williamson's out again for quite cheap. So
just want to throw this out there. That's probably going to boost India's confidence quite a bit. Kane Williamson not having a good test.
Yeah, but he hasn't got a history of doing well here, has he?
That's true.
They put his averages up, and his averages here aren't very good. For whatever reason, because I think their conditions are probably fairly similar to ours. It's hard to compare Indian cricketers to New Zealand cricketers, because I think we're talking glamour, aren't we? Let's be honest, when we're talking Indian cricketers. I mean, Rohit Sharma at one stage I wouldn't really have tipped to be a fantastic test player, but lo, he is. He's actually joint sixth with Nichols and Rishabh. So he's one of the players that actually has made that transition from he's nailed on in white ball cricket, isn't he, for India? Well, I think he definitely is a nailed on opener now. And the fact that they've got so many to choose from in India is a real testament to Indian cricket, really.
Now, going ahead as we...
add one thing.
Sure, Pan.
Yeah, I just want to add. Since you said that Williamson getting out early might actually reduce the headaches for us Indian fans, I don't think that would reduce the headache as much as because we are more worried what Wagner and Jamieson might do with the bat, because our bowling is not really competent to get the tail off. So I just hope that Wagner and Jamieson hit poor form more than Williamson, because Williamson our bowlers can handle, but I'm not sure how they'll handle the New Zealand tail order. So yeah.
So you're actually confident that your bowlers can handle Williamson, one of the finest test batsmen in the world, just because he's been struggling in the English conditions. Now, going ahead with that, Ross Taylor hasn't exactly had the most consistent run of form off late either. He's had a few good knocks at home, but again, not at his usual consistent best. In that regard, perhaps Henry Nicholls has probably done really well, not just recently, but for almost 3 years now. So, Upayan, how big a threat do you think Henry Nicholls and the experience of Kane Williamson and Ross Taylor can possibly be?
The thing about New Zealand team is that they play comparatively so less test cricket compared to the big four or the top four sides, that most of the players are underrated. Like Deb said with Tom Latham, he's one of the finest wicket keeping batsmen who's going around in the world right now, and is pretty young for his age. Henry Nicholls too. I mean, I think right now at number 5 there can't be a better batsman than him in world cricket right now. I think he averages slightly less than Steve Smith since 2018 if you look at test performances from then on. So just not just Henry Nicholls, not just Ross Taylor, not just Kane Williamson, but I think if the Indian cricket team really wants to sort of bulldoze the New Zealand order, the biggest thing that they need to keep in mind is to not be complacent, to not get overconfident after a wicket falls, no matter how big the wicket is, because these guys, like it happened in the 2019 semi-final against us, you get Williamson out, you get Williamson out, Ross Taylor comes in, you get Ross Taylor out, Henry Nicholls comes in, and you get all those above out, and then BJ Watling comes in to play his final test match. So, and BJ Watling is one of the finest wicket-keeping batsmen who's going around all in the world right now, right? So, I think the key is to, not look at the names that you're getting as wicket, but to ensure that the runs you're containing the runs, and to make sure that you make periodical breakthroughs and to keep the pressure going on as much as possible, and of course not to be any sort of complacent. Yeah.
Now, my question to Debbie is to do with, of course, the Indian middle order. Cheteshwar Pujara, Virat Kohli, and Ajinkya Rahane are huge names. Especially the former two are huge names in Test cricket. And as we mentioned, Indian players are glamorized in a sense in the cricket world. So they're huge names. Does that have any sort of extra pressure on this New Zealand bowling attack? Because the New Zealand bowling attack is undoubtedly one of the best in the world, regardless of the fact that they do not play as many test matches as some of the bigger teams. But they are a fantastic bowling attack. So does that how do you see that comparison or that competition faring?
I don't think that these. I don't see. Oh, that's another wicket. I don't think these bowlers will be intimidated by anybody. I mean, obviously, you're talking very different batsmen when we look at our very solid Pujara compared to Virat Kohli, who hasn't had the best of 18 months. I mean, we were just discussing before we came on air how well he did here in 2018. You know, he totally put 2014 behind him. He was just amazing here. So you're talking to two very different batsmen there. And Rahana's kind of a mix of both of them, isn't he, really? I don't see these New Zealand bowlers being intimidated by anybody. You know, they're very feisty, aren't they? You know, they're just fantastic to watch. I mean, Neil Wagner's so angry. Well, I can't think someone hit him for a big runs today, and even I think he got him out the next ball because he was so angry to have been hit for a 4 or a 6.
That was off Stuart Broad, I think. Yeah.
Yes, I think it was. You do that to me. There you go. Have that, and they're out. So
This is a short pitch really well.
Yeah, no, I don't think they'll be intimidated. But you know, there's class throughout there, and then in comes Rishabh Pant. You know, wow. India is a very, very strong test team at the moment, no question.
While on the topic of Rishabh Pant, we've seen on one hand we have BJ Watling, who's consistently, as Upayan mentioned, he's consistently, I'm going to add the word probably just to play it safe, but in my opinion, he's been the best wicketkeeper batsman in Test cricket in the last, I don't know, maybe 5 to 6 years. And again, like many other New Zealand players, super underrated. And on the other hand, you have Rishabh Pant, who's in the form of his life. He can do nothing wrong at this point. In such a high-pressure game, Debbie, who do you put ahead? This young, feisty Rishabh Pant who's doing everything perfectly, or the more experienced BJ Watling who's been doing great things for a certain period of time?
I think I have to go with the maturing Rishabh Pant. Because yes, young and feisty, but he can also play a mature innings, can't he? Of course. I mean, you know, I will never. I saw his very first ball bowled at Trent Bridge in Test cricket, and he hit a 6 from it. I mean, what an amazing start! But I think he's capable of mature innings as well. So I would have to go with Pant. I mean, he took a record number of catches as well against bowling in these conditions. No, I think he has to edge it for me. I think, again, in the last year, he's proven that he can play what's needed rather than what he fancies doing, if that makes sense.
Of course. I mean, he would like to probably replicate something in Brisbane, if not better that somehow. Upayan, do you agree? Do you agree that Rishabh Pant would be the one ahead of the two?
The thing with youth is that, you know, it can go either way. You know, a young horse and an experienced horse knows what steps are needed to be taken, and a young horse, well, you know, he can just go on with his speed, and you know, he might just not complete the race. So the thing with youth is that it can take any course. You know, the thing with Rishabh Pant is that he might be in the form of his life, but you know, like, he is also under a lot of pressure because he knows that the moment he fails, he will be compared to another legend who was in his place a few years back, and you know, nobody likes those comparisons, obviously. So compared to him, BJ Watling isn't really under any sort of pressure. That it's probably BJ Watling's first ever any sort of final. You know, it's probably the first ICC tournament he's been playing. So I think you know, BJ Watling might just edge out, because he doesn't really have the burden of expectations that somebody like a Rishabh Pant is carrying. Of course, having a billion eyes watching you is anyway a huge expectation, but for BJ Watling, that might not be the case. I think as Debs put the word, glamour thing is attached with India. I remember somebody quoting that when Virat Kohli in the side, India becomes a mass media management team, whereas without them, it's just a fine cricket team, right? So India will be the most talked about, the most glamorous unit which will be hitting the field, and that might just be the cause of if New Zealand can put them under pressure, that might be the cause of India crumbling down. So Rishabh Pant too is he can also crumble down if that does affect him. However, the best thing about Indian youngsters right now is that since they're used to playing under pressure. I mean, be it in the IPL, be it in the domestic, in the Ranji Trophy, it's equally pressurized matches we have there. So he might just be able to take the pressure in the right way. As an Indian fan, I hope he certainly does that. So yeah.
Now going ahead, New Zealand are probably, I would be very surprised if New Zealand picked someone like Daryl Mitchell ahead of Colin de Grandhomme just because of what Colin de Grandhomme provides with the ball. And they would be looking for that extra bowling option, the better bowling option, if I could say that. With all due respect to Daryl Mitchell, I personally think he's the better batsman of the two. But with India, it's not that easy. So that's where I wanted to throw open the slightly harder question. Is it even possible for India to play both Ashwin and Jadeja in English conditions?
I was actually doing a bit of research regarding the Southampton pitch. I mean, there's two strips available. One which is kind of dry, assists batsmen, assists spinners, and one where there's some patches of grass left. So I think that is a decision that the team will take. Personally, I would want to use. I mean, I would want to go with our best first 11, where both Ashwin and Jadeja are a part of it. Because let's face it, the team all it has gone through it, all the highs and lows with both of them together, right? So I wouldn't really want to tinker with that combination. I also think that we have the fast bowling required when it comes to facing New Zealand. I think Bumrah is capable enough. Shami or Ishant, whoever comes in, is capable enough, and Siraj is, he's just the hottest property in fast bowling right now. So I wouldn't really discount on that. So yeah, I mean, if the pitches are showing traces of assisting the pacers more, probably one of them should drop out. I guess Ashwin, like it always happens with him, since he is the sort of weaker batsman between Jadeja and him, although records might suggest otherwise. I think he might just be kept away. Who knows? India might also play an extra batsman, because Hanuma Vihari, he has been in the county circuit for a long time right now. So you never know, because if India thinks defensively, they might just bring in an additional batsman. If they want to go all out, I think they probably will go with five bowlers, and out of whom Ashwin and Jadeja are probably all rounders. So I think that's what the plan's supposed to go for us.
I wanted to raise this topic, the one you mentioned about Hanuma Vihar. You also mentioned previously that Mayank Agarwal could possibly bat at number 6. So are you indicating that this number 6 batting position, India could play it as a sort of safety card? In that regard, does it become a sort of a defensive ploy?
See, India's record in England, or in conditions where which basically where the ball swings, or which are overcast in general, it hasn't really been anything exceptional, right? I mean, they've basically lost 4-1 last time they toured England, and lost 2-0 without offering any sort of fight in New Zealand. I think they might want to discount on their bowling, because right now the best thing about Indian team side, or the strongest department in the Indian team, is the bowling department, which they've managed to develop in the last few years. Batting wise, they are a tad bit weak. I don't think that our batsmen are really more capable than the New Zealand batsmen when it comes to playing swing. They've always had these issues, whether batting under overcast conditions, or batting at the fourth day or the fifth day pitch when the ball starts moving a bit. So we saw that in the pink ball test, of course, in the last pink ball test in Adelaide, and these things will definitely come to haunt us back. So I might think that India can go with an additional batting option. if they want to think defensively, and it wouldn't be too wrong, because at the end of the day you're just trying to win the World Test Championship by hook or crook, and even if you want to go with the defensive option, it's not too bad either, because a draw in these conditions against a team which is used to playing these conditions is just as good as a victory of that sort. So I think going with an extra batsman wouldn't really hurt us too much. The prime reason why somebody like a Vihari or a Mayank Agarwal or a KL Rahul might bat at number 6 is because the team just doesn't really have the confidence that it should have on Ravindra Jadeja. Ravindra Jadeja is a batsman who has 3 triple centuries in his domestic career. I mean, I understand that those are comparatively less glamorous bowling units, but he's very underrated in the Indian circuit when it comes to him being used as a batsman. So because of that, we might just have to add a specialist batsman.
In case anyone was wondering, my red ball is actually back. And here we are focusing on the discussion for the bowling attacks of both sides. So, Devi, I just wanted to ask, do you see Trent Bolt just walking into the side as soon as he's fit and ready and being the addition to this pace bowling attack, or does he replace anyone?
Well, I think he's going to have to replace someone, isn't he? That's a good question, because who does he replace? Let me just have a look.
I think the Grandhome might be the one.
Could be Santner.
Yeah, could be Santner. Come back to Jadeja. He's in my starting team every time. But I just, particularly in England, I just think that the man is too much of a talent not to have in that team. He really is. De Grandhome really, don't know. He's the sort of man that can turn a game, isn't he? But he can turn a white ball game. I'm not convinced he can turn a red ball game. But I think you have to have Trent Bolt in there. Yeah, definitely. I mean, Southey's taken 6 wickets in this England innings and has got a lot of experience of playing here. Jameson is something a bit unusual, isn't he? I don't suppose many Indian batsmen have faced someone of his height, really, let alone anything else.
And he has done extremely well against India not too long ago. So that's also a factor that could play in.
And Neil Wagner's got that bit of nasty in him. And he's actually a very nice man, but he's got a bit of nasty in him, hasn't he? That I think
he does.
Yeah.
But if they do go through with that, entire ploy of dropping Grandhome and then playing Trent Bolt, does it thin out the batting a little too much? Are you banking too much on India's inability to remove the tail?
It's a very difficult balance, isn't it? I think England, I think, have paid in this test by not having a spin bowler. It's very difficult to get the balance. To be watching Jimmy Anderson bowling with an old ball 12 overs before we're due to get a new ball tells me that balance for England was totally wrong. Really, it's very hard to know. I don't think any of those guys that are New Zealand's tail, none of them are actually number 11s like Jimmy Anderson, are they? Really, they can all hold a bat. And the one thing, of course, that India have done in recent years is they very much have improved their seam and fast bowling, haven't they? In the past, I don't think they would have competed necessarily in these conditions, but that's not the case now. So I get my Jadeja in there as one option and have him bowling. And you look down that list and you've got a huge number that can be picked. I like Shami here actually as well. I hope that he gets to play. Bumrah is obviously a given, and then any number of others for them to pick from. So Trent Bolt has to play for me. Not sure who.
Over the years, we've seen one of Trent Bolt's earlier teammates, like they've played under 19 together, they've grown up together, and that being Tim Southee, of course. Now, Tim Southee is a bowler who's aged like fine wine. He's just gotten better and better with time. But I feel like I can't even say that about Ishant Sharma. He hasn't aged like wine. He's aged like something. I don't know what ages like that, because his career graph could possibly go like this pretty much. It's that stonks meme that you keep seeing.
Yeah.
That's what his career has been like. So we have a surprise entry here, Romit Ganguly. Romit, I hope you're
Yeah,
feeling
sorry
better.
for being late. Yeah,
No, no,
yeah,
no.
I'm
I hope
feeling
you're
better.
feeling
So,
better.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, congratulations on the vaccine.
Ha
I
ha ha.
just,
Sure,
so I'm going to throw you a question right away now that you're here.
sure.
Is Ishant Sharma a sure shot for you?
I guess Ishant Sharma is a sure shot for me because he has played county cricket and also has experienced England conditions before. So I guess Ishant Sharma is a must for me in the squad because we have seen when the ball gets old, Ishant can actually reverse it very well. So Ishant Sharma for me will be a very good crucial for us because you know how good he in swings the ball. So I can get the player out, bowled out or LBW. So that actually when Bumrah is getting the ball away from the batter and if Ishant comes in and he's swinging all the other way around, that would actually trouble the batter. So Ishant, with his experience, will add a lot of value to the squad. I can swap Shami for Siraj or anything else, but I won't swap Ishant because with his experience, I feel he should be there in the squad and he will be successful. I feel because like someone like him who has played county cricket already and has the experience in England, he can use it well because whenever he comes to bowl, I feel he knows what is the situation and he'll bowl according to that. And below, before the years, we have also seen that Ishant Sharma has improved his length much. The good length, the bowling, the hard length. So he has also varied his length. So I feel Ishant will be a very important player for us.
Now, Debbie, you mentioned both Shami and Jadeja. So are you sort of sitting Ashwin out? And what's your overall bowling attack for India looking like?
Um, I've actually got Jadeja, Ashwin, Bumrah, Shami, and Siraj
Hmm.
as
Well,
my
that's very
bowling
interesting.
attack. I mean, because both. I mean, Jadeja is as good with the bat as he is a ball, but so can Bumrah can be. Ashwin can be just as good with the bat, can't he? And I don't think we can underestimate that. I just go back to Shami in 2018 here and the accuracy of his bowling. You know, how he didn't take hatfuls of wickets, I do not know. He was so unlucky. I get the point about Ishant, but I don't think I'd have him in my team.
Upan, what's your bowling attack for both India and New Zealand separately, of course, looking like?
I'd go with Debbie's, but one slight change. I think I'd swap Ishant with Shami just for that experience, and probably because Shami, after the injury in Adelaide, he hasn't really hit that kind of form that we are used to seeing him in. Siraj for me is the X factor in Indian fast bowling right now. He can swing the ball really well. The kind of responsibility that he showed in the last three matches in Australia was exceptional. I think he'll only come better with these conditions, which are supposed to favor him. Bumrah is a no-brainer. The reason why I would still consider picking Ashwin and Jadeja together instead of either one of them is only if the strip that I was talking about, if we are fortunate enough to play on the drive pitch where the ball assists the spinners and everything. So that should be the thing. Personally, I wouldn't really mind going for a horses for courses approach because it's just one match to determine who's the winner and everything. So it would be a huge problem if India wants to experiment a bit too much. Let's not forget that when India were playing last time in the Lords, Virat Kohli decided to hand over it to Kuldeep Yadav because he thought that a wrist spinner can take away the wickets of tailenders, and it backfired big time. It was an experimental decision, and it backfired big time. So I, for one, would first of all look at how the pitch behaves and then choose my players. If the pitch assists fast bowlers completely, Jadeja stays on. I'm not going to discount on Jadeja no matter what happens. Probably Ashwin will go out, and then I'll consider bringing in Shami or Umesh, whoever is available, or whoever's bowling at a much faster pace. I think Virat Kohli did mention in one video which sort of got leaked that he's expecting Siraj and Shami to wreak havoc. So I think both of them will definitely start off.
I think Romit wants to say something.
About that, like we have seen that England pitches behaves in differently in different days. Like yesterday, we saw when Devon Conway was batting, Broad and Jimmy Anderson was bowling. We didn't saw that much of swing from them. But today, when you saw Team Saudi bowling, you saw the ball is swinging much more than the previous day. So I feel that will matter a lot for India, and the luck which will favor New Zealand or India, whoever it favors, that team would come out on top. Because if India plays a less amount of swing, then I feel they'll come out on top and they'll put up a decent score which we can defend, or which we can take a lead at least. So that will matter a lot, because if you see, New Zealand has got good swing bowlers. So if it starts swinging a lot, Indian batters will face a lot of problems. But if it swings a less, then I feel India will have the edge. So that matters also a lot. So how the conditions would behave, because in England, once at one point of time you have sunny weather, and another point of time you have overcast conditions. So you can't actually determine the type of weather. So that will also affect the game, I feel.
Debbie, if you were in the New Zealand camp, who would be the one player you would want to watch out from India?
Um, I feel it's probably Rohit. I think probably the popular answer should be Kohli, but I think for me it's Rohit. I think he's a huge influence in the field as well. I think he sets the mold, doesn't he, for how he starts as an opener. He's the key man for me.
Now, Upayan, same question to you, but from an Indian perspective.
Jameson, no doubt
Jameson.
Jameson. I think he was the one who made the biggest difference when it came to us playing New Zealand in the last series that we did. I think starting from the ODI series, I mean we managed to beat New Zealand hands down in the T20 series, but after he made his debut, I think it was just a different kind of India we saw on the field in front of New Zealand. So I think Jameson is definitely the player to watch out for. I think he's one of the most exciting young talents right now in world cricket, and New Zealand can actually capitalize on him for a long, long time. Second one, whom I would, for one, I mean at least watch out for, is Tim Southee. I think our batsmen are capable of playing pace, raw pace, in fact. So Bolt, unless he starts swinging early or something, it won't be an issue. Wagner, I think Rohit Sharma is capable. I mean, if Neil Wagner has those bouncers, then Rohit Sharma has his trademark pull shot. So not too worried about that. But Saudi, if the ball starts swinging, if he can manage to just deliver a ball which stays low and somehow manages to edge the batsman out, then he can actually start a collapse for Indian cricket team, which has been customary for us for a long time. So these are the two individuals I'd really look out for.
Romit, as an Indian fan, is there anything particularly that you wouldn't want to see India do? Something they've done before, something you've seen quite a lot of, and something you definitely wouldn't want to see on a final?
I would say something which would make Upayan definitely happy. I really want Ajinkya Rahane to step up, because we have seen when the top, like mostly we have seen when the top order has lost their wickets, then the middle order has struggled a lot, even Virat Kohli. So in that case, when we lose Pujara or the openers, then Rahane's role becomes very important. Like he should play a big innings and step up for India and actually take the score at least to a decent limit. Because after that we have Rishabh Pant who can actually hit the ball around. So Rahane's role becomes very important in the middle, because our middle order has, before we have seen, they have struggled a lot when we have lost 2 wickets earlier in the 10-15 overs, and then we have the middle order has struggled. So I feel Ajinkya Rahane, it's high time, and he's definitely a very good player. Like I don't know how come is he not that consistent because of his technique. His technique is really good. Like I appreciate his technique a lot. So I feel in this big final, Rahane should be a very important, crucial man for India, because he should step up and he has to play a big innings, because you never know. Rohit Sharma, as we said, that he might be the key, but if the ball starts swinging, Team Saudi, as Upan mentioned, he can get him out. So in that case, if we lose our two of the openers, or Pujara, who is the main batter of us, I feel. So that time Rahane, I feel the role becomes very important, and I want to see Rahane do something big for us.
I feel like Upayan would agree with that.
Actually, when we talk about India's problems, the thing about India's problems is that it's not as much on the field as it is off the field. The problems with Indian cricket is more related to the background stuff than what's happening on the field. On the field, we have capable players, we have players who've got the right kind of exposure, who can handle every sort of situation because that's how they've been trained. But off the field, it becomes important as to how they're being trained, and most importantly, what are the policies being used when it comes to the right team selection. Virat Kohli is a good captain. I know he gets a lot of criticism, he gets a lot of flack from the Indian public and the Indian media because we often come close to winning matches which earlier we wouldn't, but we lose them drastically. So the problem with Virat Kohli's captaincy, which can be a factor for us not doing well, not crossing the line when it comes to the end, is that he has made team selection blunders, be it in Indian cricket, be it when he's playing for RCB, and that has really costed the team a lot. Like choosing Kuldeep in Lords or initially benching Pujara for Rahul at number 3. These have been some serious blunders, which I sincerely hope that he rectifies. And regarding the backroom staff issue, I mean, this is a problem which Indian cricket has been facing constantly for a long time. The board and the backroom staff that has the captain's backing, they haven't really been working in tandem together. The problem being that the board has often, they've actually appointed certain mentors of high quality like Rahul Dravid and Zahir Khan, who actually have the experience in those conditions to travel with the team. But the captain and his backroom staff, they haven't really responded to those appointments in the right manner in which they should have had, and that actually has led us to losing matches from positions where we should have won. I personally believe that when you look at a team like Australia, who usually struggle in the last decade or so in England, what they did was when they wanted to wanted to counter swinging conditions, they appointed guys like Ricky Ponting and Steve Waugh in the last Ashes. What we did instead was appoint somebody like a Sanjay Bangar and then went on with somebody like a Vikram Rathore, who probably hasn't really had the sort of experience you need when it comes to playing in these conditions. So I just hope that that doesn't really affect us too much. Also, the selection policy is something where we have suffered a great deal. Be it in test matches or be it in the last World Cup that we played. We've had the staggering problem of a number 4 batsman for a long, long time, and we even managed to groom Ambati Rayudu for the role. But at the last moment, we chose Vijay Shankar over him for absolutely no fathomable reason. So I sincerely hope that whatever team selection happens, it at least happens with a certain amount of intellectual honesty towards the objective that's ahead of us.
Given the
And
previous
I'd like to mention one more point. Like, if we see another problem of India is its tail enders. Like, if we see New Zealand's tail enders, they can actually give you around 70 to 80 runs, but our tail enders can't give that. Suppose if our batters fail, then you can't expect your tail enders to score at least 70 to 80 runs and give us that edge. Because we know Shardul Thakur won't be playing. He's capable, so he won't be playing. So if we see Shami, Bumrah, or Ishant or Siraj, anyone else, like they can't give us those 60 to 70 runs, which New Zealand's tailenders can give. So there also a problem lies for India.
given the previous encounter between the two teams, and of course, whether it's sunny, whether it's overcast, we can just say that the conditions do favor New Zealand, and the fact that they are actually playing a two match test series right before the final. Debbie, do you think New Zealand straight away just go into the game as favorites?
Yeah, I think they probably do, in spite of the fact of the way India played in the last year. I think it's that these test match that were arranged at the last minute. Really, that was a very clever move on their part. I mean, I don't know. India are here, aren't they? I think now. But what they'll be doing for a warm up, I don't know. Just nets, I guess. I mean, we were supposed to have a team come to Essex, but that can't happen now. I think that must give them an advantage. And of course, several of their players have played a decent amount of county cricket as well. And although that's something that's happening more and more with Indian cricketers, I wish English players would go and play in India, actually, in your season. I don't know whether they're not allowed or what, but I think it will do India some favours if we can have more of your cricketers coming and playing county cricket here. I mean, you know, a few Ashwin hasn't he? As we say, Behari is. I don't think Behari's having that great a summer so far. I mean, he impressed in 2018, but I don't think he's been brilliant. But yeah, I think the fact that they've had these 2 test matches and they're used to, as we say, it's the overheads, isn't it, as much as what's under their feet, really. Get a brilliantly sunny 5-6 brilliantly sunny days, and I think that takes away some of New Zealand's edge. But I think the conditions, potential conditions, and the fact they've had 2 tests beforehand have to be to their advantage.
Upayan, you wanted to add something to this?
Yeah, I mean, agreed that New Zealand are playing before India, and in these conditions they're supposed to be favorites. But one small thing which we didn't really consider is that the biobubble fatigue is something which New Zealand players will be facing a bit more than the Indians. The reason being that with the IPL getting cancelled midway for whatever reason it had to be, I think Indians, they managed to get some much useful rest that they really deserve, because they've been playing since last September. It was the IPL in the UAE, then the exhausting Australian series, then an England series, and again the IPL, and it was all heading towards a long tour of England, and then the World T20 World Cup as well. So I think they got that much needed rest, and they had that opportunity to recharge their batteries, and I think that might actually help them. New Zealand, on the other hand, well, technically they will be playing 3 tests in 3 weeks, and that can sort of add on with the fatigue. I think the reason why Trent Bolt was not playing is because the team wants to keep him a bit fresh. Don't be surprised if Tim Southee or Neil Wagner doesn't play in the next match for New Zealand, because if they have a good rotation policy, they would probably want to rest their key bowlers, and that is something which I sincerely hope New Zealand does not do, but I think that will be in the back of the mind, and I think the biobubble fatigue, that will definitely be a concern, which can sort of affect the results in this final match.
So this is sort of my final question, how I wanted to end it, and it's sort of a goofy one. Given how common drawn results are in Test cricket, should championship sharing, this whole trophy sharing thing, have been the only possible outcome of a drawn final? I want the answer from all 3 of you, possibly starting with Debbie.
Please don't let New Zealand be involved in another tie at the end. I really hope that doesn't happen for them. They've given 6 days, haven't they, to get a result? Let's have a result. Yeah, I wouldn't like to see a draw.
I think if it comes down to that, Kane Williamson, if they somehow went left field and wanted to have a super over, Kane Williamson would just hand India the trophy at the end. Yeah. He wouldn't want to go into that super over again.
No, let's not have that sort of scenario.
Upa and Romit, do you agree about the drawn result, not the Kane Williamson part?
Yeah. You want to continue?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I want to say, like, what is the point of the championship? Like, if there's a drawn result and they both share the trophy. So I feel this ICC should change this format totally, because it should be a league format like football. Like, the one who wins the more games actually gets the trophy. That actually is much better for the team, because you never know what will happen in those 5 days. If it's drawn, then there is no point of this championship, right? The trophy is getting shared, so you can't actually determine the winner. So I feel if it's in a league format and there are teams, and the team with most wins gets the trophy like in football, I feel that would be more justified in WGC, like considering the test format of.
My take on this is that not many sports offer the result of a draw. I think cricket and probably hockey and football does that, but hockey and football, at the end, if it comes to a knockout match, they go to a tiebreaker or something. But when it comes to test cricket, that is the only format of the only game which actually allows you to sort of give it to the two teams which has battled it out for the last 5 days or so. The beauty of draw, as Harsha Bogle had stated in the Sydney match, where we managed to, where Hanuma Vihari and Ashwin managed to pull it out for India, was that the beauty of the certain amount of resilience that is being shown by one team which is constantly under pressure, and they're finally managing to survive that barrage of pressure, and managing to save Greece for their country. And I think that is the beauty of Test cricket. And the draw part, it sort of it just enhances this beauty more. So I really don't want to get out of the draw situation. Sure, I mean, if you want the final to happen where you actually need a result, I think probably introduce a two-match final, right? That can actually help out. I mean, it's unfair to judge how a team manages to perform on one match of a Test championship, right? Because there's no Test series which is happening on a one-match basis. So why should there be just one match to determine who the winner is? So if you want to have a result oriented that way, probably have multiple matches. Obviously, just two of them probably, but don't take the option out. Don't take the option of a draw out, because that is the beauty of Test cricket, and that is something which purists and now the new viewers who have been attracted to Test cricket by the World Test Championship Cycle 1, they too have started to admire. So I think draw should be there.
I think that's beautifully put, and it's a good place to wrap up for all of us. So again, Debbie,
Thank you.
Upan, Romit, thanks for being a part of the show. Thanks for being a part of this wonderful discussion. As always, it's been fantastic having all of you. And to all our viewers, thank you for watching. And to both New Zealand and India, of course, all the very best. And this is quite incredible in the sense that for the first time possibly ever, we're going to see a proper final for a test match tournament, and we're all looking forward to it. So again, all the very best to both teams, and thank you for watching.